Welcome to the fourth episode of the Good Boss podcast, where I'm in conversation with Raju Bhatnagar, who was my boss during the early stages of my career. An interesting phase when one is moving from the campus environment into the corporate world. We will explore aspects of that. We will also explore Raju's journey in a fairly distinguished corporate career, and then subsequently an equally long journey in the coaching space, where he has been accredited as the top 101 most fabulous coaches globally. He's also an accredited mediator, a neuro-linguistic programming expert, so on and so forth. So more to come in conversation with Raju Bhatnagar. So Raju, thank you so much for taking the time.
You're welcome.
So yes, Grindlays Bank, ANZ Grindlays Bank, way back in 91 when I joined, fresh out of my MBA and all that. And then subsequently, a couple of years later, you moved to Kochi to manage one of the branches and oversaw the merger of the two branches.
Correct.
But you were my manager briefly for a brief period of time. And I would like to explore that period on a couple of aspects. One is transitioning, from a campus sort of environment, or maybe not even a campus, but your graduation environment into the corporate world. And in some cases, at least in Grindlays Bank, you were managing teams. Maybe you might have started small, and then eventually, when you moved to Cochin, you were managing the branch, which is a mid-size retail job, which retail banking at that time had credit authority and so on and so forth. How does one, for me, and I'll talk a little bit about that, it was initially quite traumatic in terms of being able to manage a team. How was it for you? And how did you manage to come through that?
Okay, so I joined Grindlays as a management trainee. I joined in 1980. And I think one of the things that worked for me very well was the fact that Grindlays had a very robust training process for management trainees. You were put through the paces, so to speak, over a year and a half, working with departments, working with the clerical staff. And when you start interacting with individuals and people who are working for an organization at a grassroots level, it changes your perspective. And there's a small incident which I'd like to narrate, which is about the banks in those days were manual, there were no computers. So there was a unit called DDA, which was the demand deposit accounting. And there were half a dozen guys, 5 or 6 guys, very good at their work. They would traipse in at about 10:30, 11, finish their work by 3, and the rest of the time they'd have a ball. Fresh out of college, said, you're being paid for a full day's work, you need to come on time. Said it a couple of times, and they said, fine, we'll come on time and you tell us what to do. You're the boss, management trainee. And we started off next day at 9:30 till about 4, quarter past or thereabouts. We hadn't moved an inch in locating those differences. And I was sweating.
Sure.
So then these guys use a term in Bengali, which is for a little boy, they said, Koka, don't worry. Yeah. We'll take care of it. In the next 45 minutes to an hour, it had been sorted out. That was my first lesson in humility, that you leave the arrogance of college.
Absolutely.
Behave as a human, don't carry chips on your shoulder, and treat others like humans. If they're doing a job, accept it.
Delving a little deeper,
okay.
How do you elicit respect? End of the day, and I'll give you my example. Straight out of campus, all of 24 years old, managing a small department, but nevertheless managing 4 or 5 people, some of them maybe twice my age,
right.
And then I'm a rookie out there, and I'm supposed to, in some case, direct them. But why will they listen to you? I mean, because
True.
they know, and I know that they know better than me.
Correct.
At that point of time. Maybe
Correct.
eventually I'll catch up.
Yes.
But that initial 6 months of breaking their eyes, getting them to listen to you, and getting respect. How do you deal with that?
So I think the trick is, and I must say at that time it wasn't a conscious thought. Yeah. It subsequently crystallized during the years. I think the trick really is accepting the fact that you are still learning. Yeah. And even though there are people reporting to you, if you don't know something, ask them to teach it to you. And stuff that you can do, show that you can do it, and you're one of them. Yeah. And that helps. Yeah. So you don't command respect, you earn it. Yeah. And once you are able to work with the team, show that you can do it, things fall in place, and then people start respecting you, because ultimately, hierarchically, you are higher up.
Yeah, and this is probably true at any stage in your career.
Yes.
Not necessarily in the beginning,
Correct.
But there's a huge learning, which I guess we received
Correct.
right up front. That and I think those are tough lessons, and hopefully well learned.
Let me just add a piece. Most of the time, people who come out of college, and especially after having done an MBA, we carry chips on our shoulders. It's true of me as well when I joined after IIFT. And therefore, we are out to reform the world. Yeah. and upset the apple cart, change everything, and that is where the clash happens. Because the people who are working for you are not willing to accept somebody who doesn't know anything telling them what to do.
Yeah. No, thanks for that, Raju. And of course, Grindays, you had a fairly long career from probably 1980 onwards till I think
till
98.
98.
98. Before the Standard Chartered Bank merger.
You were well before
Well before that. And we'll come to that. We'll explore a little bit of that too, the change and so on and so forth. Maybe let's talk about that now because, and this is, I think, important for individuals going through that at any point of time in their career. And I think we went through that way back in 98, 99 when this is preceding the whole merger or the acquisition when Standard Chartered took over ANZ Grindays. And ANZ Grindays Bank at that time, when I joined, and of course, I'm sure when you joined, was one of the most prestigious banks to work for. And one would maybe retire in the bank, if you had your choice. But then, of course, the bank took some tough decisions at that point of time in terms of restructuring, so on and so forth. And I still remember, we all were told, look, you're out of a job, but you can apply for a couple of others, one the similar level or some other level. And I was one of the fortunate ones who got another job in one of the branches in Delhi. But then, of course, the whole change was difficult. But I guess the reason I'm asking this question is, look, that is when I started thinking about something else.
Yes.
And frankly, started looking out on the market and so on and so forth, and joined GE Capital International Services. And I guess somewhere around, you also must have left around that time, 98, 99 time frame. So change of such a nature, and this is a constant, it's a cliche, but this happens everywhere. And there are recent examples where organizations are shutting down locations as an example and moving from one location to another. So, this happens constantly. But as a junior person or even a mid-level or even senior, at any level, how do you manage this change?
So I think the first thing one needs to do is to be aware of the fact that this is going to happen.
Yeah.
And therefore and don't look at yourself as a victim. When change happens, and if you've been doing reasonably well, don't look at yourself as a victim and be in a state of denial that, why has this happened to me? Yeah. So once you accept that, and if I go through my experience, I think Grindays was like one large comfortable family. Yeah. And in many respects it was good. In some respects it was not good because it lulled you into a state of semi-complacency. If you didn't get a promotion this year, you didn't get a good increment this year, it'll happen next year. So it wasn't a big deal. The breaking point or the awareness, if you call it, came up when at one point in time, and I was in Chennai at that time, my boss 2 levels removed, who was doing reasonably well respected. He was called one morning and said, thank you very much, time for you to go. And that was at a very senior level, and he was shocked, all of us were shocked. But that's when the penny dropped that this is not the organization that I had joined. And it is now time to start looking before I get hit. So you plan in advance to the extent possible. Even today, a lot of people are lulled into complacency, but you should do a mark to market. As a banker, one would be able to relate to it. Do a mark to market. Where do I stand? Do I have the current skills? Suppose I need to change a job, voluntary, involuntary. How do I go about it? So, and be prepared for it.
You hit the nail on the head in terms of, I think gone are the days when, and maybe it's gone long back in terms of loyalty, this, that. You look after yourself in terms of making sure that you're doing the right and the best job for any organization you work for. But eventually, if something is to happen which is outside your control, then be prepared and be equipped to look after yourself.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's a big lesson. All right, moving from ANZ Grindays Bank, you joined eFunds, and then I think ICICI OneSource, and subsequently Tata Business Services. So there was a fairly longish period of time, maybe 6-7 years, in a space completely different from where you come from. Right. So core banking, and then you're moving into at that point of time called the BPO. Now, of course, no longer call it BPO. You say
BPM,
BPM or global delivery, whatever it is. But at that time, it was offshoring or outsourcing of processes and functions into another location, which happens to be India. And I think you did that for a fairly. So how was that change?
So it wasn't, if I'm speaking about myself, it wasn't all that different. Because over the years in Grindlays, when I had moved through multiple departments and multiple segments and functions, I ended up in what was then known as operations. And one of the tasks that I had, along with a colleague of mine, Dilip Rajwade, one of the tasks we had was to centralize operations. Move it out of branches, create a back office and the rest of it, which is commonplace now. So if you look at that core competency of taking operations and executing it remotely, which is what we did in Grindlays, then when I moved to HDFC, I did the same thing there. It's pretty much more of the same. So when you get into a BPO, as it was called in those days, you are taking service delivery operations, you put any descriptor to it, and moving it and delivering it remotely. So there was that element of commonality. The difference was that we were doing it cross-border, so the requirements were different, but there was a learning curve. One had to move up that.
All right. And I think there's something interesting which I read in your profile, which you did, I think, in Tata Business Services, if I've got my facts correctly, which was a rural BPO. What exactly was that?
Cost pressures.
And by rural, how rural? I mean,
so really rural. I mean, to direct answer to that question, our first rural call center was in a village which had about 2,000 people as residents. That was it. It was that small.
That's it.
It was that small.
Interesting.
So, but when I mentioned cost pressures, there were clients when TBS's, Tata Business Support Services, was dealing with Tata companies, and there were cost pressures. They wanted the price to be reduced without a quality drop, which is a standard requirement. And we pitched this, saying that, if you're going to allow us to do that, we might be able to take the price below what you're asking. And hopefully with no degradation of service. So will you be willing to experiment? And they said, okay, we'll do it in our least risk area. The area where the clients were stable, there wasn't too much of a churn. So we tried it out and it was a roaring success.
And how was the talent? And what was it? English? Was it some other language?
No, local languages.
Local languages.
So this was we were doing it in the outskirts, about 200 odd kilometers from Hyderabad. So it was Telugu.
Telugu. But in terms of professionalism, ability to all that,
phenomenal.
Good.
Phenomenal. It was a matter of pride
and stickability. Maybe they stay longer.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
All right.
It was phenomenal, and then that quickly multiplied because we identified a lot of places. This one was on a standalone basis, but a lot of other places, the Tata factories were in not so well populated urban areas. They were in small towns. So some distance from the small town with the rural BPO, and that made a big difference.
Nice. All right.
That was phenomenal.
Interesting. Just if you're aware, has such models been translated across? Have we seen this exploding into rural locations?
Yeah, there are a number of organizations now that do it. There is a company called Rural Shores, which specializes in that. There is Harwa. There are quite a few of them.
This is very good, actually. This kind of takes away the pressure from the cities.
But it's not scalable the way it is in a city.
Okay. All right.
So that's the downside of it. So you've got to manage multiple 100, 120 seaters, which has its own
different
challenges.
model, but has its own benefit. Moving on, I think subsequently you were in NASSCOM for about 3 years, as a vice president. It is a full-time job, right, with NASSCOM?
Yes.
And one thing which I picked up, and maybe there could be others. So at least this definitely I would like to, have you talk a little bit more about is this quest for ISO certification. In the IT ES BPO space, right? And I think you initiated that process. Now, where are we now? Have we any closer to getting or have we reached a point where things are looking as if there would be certifications happening at different levels?
So, on the BPO, there was more on for the IT industry, it was more the CMM level 5. For BPO, there wasn't any such thing.
Is there anything now?
There is. So there is the ISO standard that you talk about is 30105 that is published and ready. There was a Carnegie Mellon maturity model, a CMM model for BPO, which was clunky and onerous. So that was there. Because it was clunky, there were not too many people who were getting certified. But the ISO, which was adjunct, it was not part of NASSCOM, it was separate when we did that, and that was over a period of 7-8 years. It was privileged to chair that working group. We drafted it, got the approvals, published it, and now it is functional.
It's a functional certification model.
It's completely functional.
And does it, okay, now, hard question, does it give you any benefit if you're an ISO certified in the BPO space?
Yes and no. It's a nice moniker to have that I'm ISO certified.
Yeah.
But like in ISO 20000, there are lots of organizations which say they ISO 20000, and it's just there. It establishes the baseline.
Yeah. But at a minimum, it establishes some set of procedures.
Yes, it
and
establishes the
right.
baseline.
Got it.
And that helps for separating wheat from chaff.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Raju, in your NASSCOM stint for 3 years, I'm sure you would have dealt with the government because NASSCOM is a lobbying organization for the IT as industry, and So how was that experience? I mean, because always what you think about government is, are they really supporting, or are they putting some roadblocks? How was your experience dealing with government and specifically bureaucrats in the government?
Okay. To me, that stint in NASSCOM was a revolution and an eye-opener. I had spent about 25 odd years or 28 years in corporate life, and then moved across to NASSCOM with typical corporate arrogance that I know it.
Yeah.
And there was a mental makeup that the bureaucrats are there to put impediments and roadblocks. My first few meetings with bureaucrats, and the senior bureaucrats, the secretary, joint secretary level, the additional secretary level, senior bureaucrats, I went in with that arrogance and chips on my shoulder that I know it all. And in each one of those 6, 7, 8 initial meetings, I got creamed. I didn't know what hit me. Till the penny dropped that these guys are not twits, they are smart, they are very smart.
That's why they're there.
That's why they're there. And then when I reoriented myself and my thought processes and started interacting with them, it was such a pleasure. There are challenges which are humongous that they face. There is no question about it. But the way that they go about and they resolve and address those challenges is phenomenal. And the best part was that you can disagree vehemently. You have a diametrically opposite view. People don't hold it against you. The bureaucrats don't hold it against you. They're willing to listen to you.
It's an issue-based conversation, not a person-based
No, not at all. And there are a number of people with whom I had built up connects. This is now goes back nearly 12, 13 years. And I'm still in touch with them and continue to share views and thoughts. Some serving, some not serving, some retired. But that was a fabulous learning exercise.
No, it's good to know, because the perception is something very different. So it's good to know. Okay, so now, so thanks for that, Raju. And now let's come to you, maybe your career post, maybe the corporate world, where I think maybe for the past 10, 15 years you've been into coaching. Let's talk a little bit about that, your coaching journey. What is it that when you're coaching people, particularly at the senior most level, but I'm assuming you're doing executive coaching, right? CXOs, okay. So the things which a CXO level individual goes through, their trials and tribulations are very different from what, let's say, the junior level which we spoke about till now. So what are the 2 or 3 things which are common in some of the problems which they face as far as coaching conversations are concerned?
It's interesting.
It's tough to generalize, but if you can.
It's interesting. And when you mentioned at junior level, the challenges are different. I think junior level, it is more proving yourself that I know what I'm doing. Once you reach VP equivalent level, you not really you don't have to prove that I know the domain. Because if you didn't know the domain, you won't reach there. Then the challenges become different. They are soft skills. Risk-taking ability. How do I take a decision today when I don't have full information? And I can't delay and defer the decision. So risk-taking ability, strategic visioning, time management, delegation of work. It's a big challenge. Or even coming to grips with being laid off.
Which is very common.
Which is very common. And there are people who put in 20, 25, 30 years and they suddenly get pink slipped. Well, we don't have pink slips, but they get the equivalent of pink slips. Handling those kind of traumas. So if I was to look at it, what are the areas that really bother a CXO? One, how do I project myself.
Yeah.
Because it's not enough to do work, I need to project myself work that I've done.
Internally and externally,
Both.
the reputation you
Both.
built for yourself.
So externally, I would put it under the bucket of networking.
Yeah.
Internally, projecting myself. How do I establish an executive presence? How do I establish a personal brand?
Yeah.
So these are things which a lot of people don't even think about. And unless you're conscious about it, unless you're working towards it, it doesn't progress.
Talking on that, look, it's interesting that you tell about personal brand. We have seen mishaps recently, right? When individuals, there was this L&T incident which happened. And we won't go there because that was discussed in detail in the last podcast. But I'm just taking an example. I mean, there could be many other, such where senior people at very senior levels make these seemingly stupid errors. There was the Air India incident where I think there was a party going on and so on and so on. I mean, which is so unfortunate. When after a sad incident, then a week later, I'm taking these names because these are all in the public domain. But the point I'm making is, look, at that level, how do you ensure that you maintain sanity and at the same time do not derail yourself by doing stupid things?
So I think it's being conscious of where you are and what you're saying.
Yeah.
And how that is likely to be interpreted. Yeah. So if it's a loose-ish statement, can I not say it or can I rephrase it?
Yeah, sure.
So English is a wonderful language.
Yeah.
You can say the same thing in 10 different ways, carry the same meaning, but make it less offensive.
Yeah. Yeah.
So an innocuous example. In a meeting, if there is something that is being presented and I disagree with it vehemently, I have a choice of saying, I don't agree with you. I think what you're saying is nonsense.
Yeah.
That's one way of doing it. A more diplomatic way of doing it would be, can you help me understand in this kind of a scenario, if this happens, what we would do?
Yeah.
Now you're challenging that individual, but it is...
But in a non-threatening manner.
It's a non-threatening manner.
And it's an issue-based conversation or whatever.
So, those are the kind of things that one needs to be conscious about and modulate and think through before speaking. You don't fire from the hip.
Staying with senior positions, so one is, of course, how do you handle yourself and so on and so forth. Obviously, the other critical component or function of any senior level position is how do you set the culture of the organization. You do hear quite a bit of examples where, employees being overworked, and obviously there are two sides to every coin. So, again, one can't generalize any of these things. But one do hear, nibbles of this. Bullying as an example.
Right.
Bullying happening in organizations. The manager being responsible in many cases. And this is cutting across levels, right? For a junior person, the manager is the organization.
Correct.
Okay? And how the manager deals with you is your view of the organization.
Correct.
May not be that much at the senior level, but even at the senior level, there is bullying, all of that stuff happening. So one is, and you can never win a fight against your manager. That's I've learned from experience, right? So it's a losing battle if you pick a battle with your manager, right? So don't do that. Then how do you handle that? Without quitting. And if that's the final choice, then fine, you have to do it. But before you get there, how do you try and navigate yourself through circumstances when you have an ugly boss or an ugly super boss?
So I would say there are about 5% of the bosses who are completely unmanageable.
Yeah.
And there is nothing that can be done about it. Yeah. So you need to recognize a boss like that and say, this is not going to work and move on. Yeah. But for 95% of the bosses, it's easier because if you are able to look and identify what is it that is bothering them, what is it that's keeping them awake at night, and help them achieve or help them solve their problems. So you're not currying favor, you're not ingratiating yourself, but you're trying to help him so that he is able to get his work done and therefore his stress levels come down. If one is able to identify and do that, in most cases, things work out.
It'll get sorted.
Without, and I'm using a cliche, without bootlicking.
No, of course not.
Without
then you lose respect for yourself.
Absolutely.
But okay, so 95% is manageable.
Absolutely.
If the 5%, then you just say that's it, move on.
And also, when you talk about building a culture, you have the senior levels, they set the culture and they expect it to cascade down. In if not most, in a large number of organizations, the weak link is the middle management.
They get it from both sides.
They get it from both sides, and the vision and the culture does not permeate adequately below, and therefore there is a gap, and that causes stress.
All right, coaching. So you've been a coach, an executive coach, at the CXO level, for quite some time now. Now, coaching at that level, and maybe this is not intuitive, right? Most people think, look, if you are a CEO, why do you need a coach? But anyway, coaching at that level is very different from coaching, let's say, another type of, folks who are now coming up, fairly quickly, which is this whole startup ecosystem, where you have, young overachievers, for lack of a better word, or maybe they are young achievers who are trying to do something different.
Right.
And suddenly, through a series of circumstances, now they have huge funding, with them, and they can call the shots. And that's very different from coaching someone who's been through the grind and sort of after 25, 30 years has reached a certain position. So, a couple of questions. One is it important to have a coaching ecosystem, or does one exist in the first place for the startup CEOs or the startup, founders? And two, is it of any use? Does it help? Because their thinking is very different from someone who's been there through the grind and all that.
So, startups to a large extent are driven by an idea and a passion. That this is something I'm going to do, I need to change the world.
Yeah.
Now, when it starts, it's very good because I hold all the levers, I'm able to control every little thing. But pretty early in the journey, it's equally important for the founder or the founders to set milestones. That as I grow, I hit, and the milestone can vary from organization to organization, individual to individual. That's not the issue. But as I grow, I need to start putting a structure into the place. I cannot be the puppeteer. Orchestrating the entire thing. And once I set those milestones, have them validated. And there is a coaching ecosystem for startups.
Oh, nice.
For example, TIE, the Indus entrepreneurs. That's one. It's not a coaching.
It's not a coaching, but it's much broader.
But it's much broader. But there are coaches who specialize in dealing with startups. Now, the challenge is, a lot of times I'm so convinced that I have the right ideas, I have the right thinking, I'm not willing to ask anybody else. Or I'm not willing to pay.
That's of course.
Some amount of money for some general overall gyan that I'm going to get. So there is that reluctance that needs to be overcome. Because the number of startups that are successful, you have multiplier of that who failed.
And one of the reasons could have been this.
Quite possible.
Inability to manage.
And the other thing also is a recognition of the fact that I have founded it. I don't necessarily have to be CEO.
Correct.
I don't have to head the company. So it requires a
immense maturity.
Maturity and somebody to hold the mirror up to you. And that somebody is a coach.
Is the coach. All right, so that somebody is a coach, and that kind of runs across different levels. But in the coaching world, there are coaches and coaches. So like a consultant, a coach, people do tend to use that as a safe approach to look after a long career. Look, I'm a coach. Well, maybe they're good, or they were good in their career, and that's why they've done well. But they may not necessarily be a good coach.
Right.
These are two different things.
Right.
So how do you recognize, or what are the signs to look out for when you choose a coach?
Okay, it's a tough one. So, but let me try and coalesce and put some thoughts together. Somebody who's not starting off with an agenda that I need to bring about a transformation in the coaching. There could be small wins which ultimately change the way that the coachee is, the effectiveness of the person you're coaching. So, somebody who's coming with a transformational agenda is not a good idea. Somebody who's coming with his own agenda, who's driving...
It's not at all a good idea.
It's not a good idea. Somebody who's planting solutions in your mind. Somebody who's keen on mentoring you. Where I'm looking back into my career in banking and I'm saying, Ajith, this is the way you need to do it. Now that's not, your circumstances would be different. So these are red flags. And so, typically a coach should be able to dance with the client. The client wants to go in this direction, that's fine. You want to change direction and go in that direction, that's fine. It's not for me to ask, why are you changing directions? We were talking about that, why are you switching? There can be some exploration. Is there a hidden derailer that you're trying to avoid and therefore you're not going that way and moving away? That's a exploratory question, but you can't force the person you're coaching to go down that path.
Absolutely. No, thanks. So thank you so much, Raju. I think this has been a good conversation. Maybe I'll end with this question, which is, look, obviously you had a fairly long corporate stint and then another long, stint as a coach, and you've dealt with multiple people. But you yourself, at some stage in your career, I would have looked up to, either a mentor or a coach or someone whom. So, what are some of the characteristics which you found, which prompted you to sort of consider this individual as someone, or I guess the question is, what are those aspirational leadership traits which influenced you to sort of look up to someone?
Different circumstances create different mentors whom you look up to.
Yeah.
And for example, when I was in Grindlays, there was a stage when things had got very rough.
Yeah.
And I was the senior management.
But what sort of flux?
No, this was before. This was while I was still in Cochin.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The senior management had sort of said, this guy had potential, but written off.
Okay.
There was one of the bosses. You'd recollect his name, Shoman Basu.
Of course, yes.
For him to repose confidence at that point in time, saying, no, I think this guy is good. I think this guy will be able to deliver.
Yeah.
Made a big difference. Because when you're down in the dumps, there is somebody who's lending you a lifeline and pulling you out. So that was one mentor.
Yeah. And I must extend that a bit. I think that really helped, because I do recollect several years later, I was reading operation circulars, many of them were written by you. Yes. So he has done something good, I guess.
Yes. No, it worked out well.
Yeah.
His confidence that he reposed in me paid off.
Yeah.
So it ended up as a win-win.
Yeah.
But at that point in time,
You're down there.
He didn't know whether I would be able to deliver.
But he took the risk.
He took the risk.
Yeah.
And it worked out. Much later in eFunds, the people whom I've met through my career never bothered maintaining a relationship or building a network. And there are people who were, when I was in the dealing room in Grindlays, there was a gentleman who was the chief dealer in State Bank, very senior guy. He went on to become a deputy governor at RBI. We were very good friends when I was in the dealing room, but we lost track. When he did become the deputy governor, I couldn't possibly pick up the phone and speak to him. There's a gap of 15 years in between.
Yeah.
So when I was in eFunds, there was a gentleman, Pradeep Saxena, who taught me the importance of networking and building relationships, which was 20 years too late.
But yeah, these are characteristics that you look out in people in terms of when you look at someone who inspires you. Thank you, Raju. I think this has been a good open conversation.
Thank you.
And I hope our viewers will like this conversation.
Yeah, and I enjoyed it immensely, especially meeting you after so many years and having this conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Raju. Thank you.